Well, good morning, everyone. Again, another great 501 Biz Master class, master Zoom call planned for you today. Today, we have Jamie Robinson. She is with Audax Insurance Services here in the Middle Tennessee area. And she has been gracious enough to join us on the call. Jamie, thank you so much for joining with us. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
mentioned my name, Jamie Robinson, and I'm the CEO of Audax Insurance Group, which was born about 13 months ago, so the beginning of 2023. I've been in the insurance industry since 2006. So if we do the math, many, many years.
You're
I'm
older than 17 years old is what you're saying.
this just in, yes.
Understood.
um, but I'm really passionate about what I do because most people don't enjoy insurance. So I study it closely to be able to help people like yourself and business owners and even individuals. And at this point in time, I am exclusively doing commercial insurance, which means I'm helping small to mid-sized businesses with their insurance and really just identifying, what is going on with their business so that I know best how to advise them.
Absolutely. Well, and that's exactly why I have you on because personal PNC and all that stuff is different. And I know firsthand from my years as a business owner, I'm convinced the people that got rich off of my business was the government and insurance companies. And I get it. I get the whole reason for insurance. But let's just dive right in. What are some of the um, policies and some things that you as an insurance agent, so we've removed all the sales pitch, all the fluff. What are some of the policies that a business owner, say, 5 to 100 employees or something like that? What are the policies we need to think that are important?
So, the most basic line of coverage or policy that is necessary for any business is general liability. And general liability, so the word liability means third party. And general liability is something that is required really for any business that's working with clients, vendors, providing any types of services. You need to have that type of coverage for those, third party exposures, but also a lot of times vendors, landlords, people that you work with as a business owner or business will also require general liability.
Sure.
So that's what I would say is number one. If you hear the term business owner's policy, that includes general liability and then several other clauses and benefits within the policy to cover a business, including any furniture, equipment, things like that. So it's a little bit more robust than just a straight line general liability policy. The other thing, and it's different in every state, but workers' comp is required in the state of Tennessee for certain industries and for employers that are 5 employees or more. I
Yep.
am licensed in multiple states, and that is a state directed
Okay.
requirement. So it does vary per state. And then the third type of policy that is very common for businesses that provide professional services, consulting, any type of advice is professional liability or errors and
Right.
omissions.
Okay.
And just a 10,000 foot level, commercial insurance and property and casualty are somewhat interchangeable terms. So if an agent uses either one of those terms, they are basically the same. I call it commercial insurance, business insurance, etc. But those three policies that I mentioned are the ones that are most commonly written, and you your agent should be asking questions about your business, and they are pertinent to underwriting and also exposure and or the types of policies that you need. There are several other different types of policies. There are nuances within the policies that should be customized to the type of business that you have, the size revenue that you bring in, etc.
Okay. So let me ask you this. So the business that I had, it fell under the lines of surplus lines, and we won't go into that part. But like an umbrella policy on the commercial side, I carry an umbrella policy on my personal side, but what's your recommendation? Does every business need to have an umbrella, and if so, why?
Great question. And I would say not every business needs an umbrella. It's also called excess. So those are the two terms used on the
Okay,
commercial side. The reason I say not every business needs it is two reasons. Number one, if you're a startup and it's a low risk business, meaning there's no manual labor, act there's no physical activity required to do the job, then it's lower risk, right? If you're sitting at a desk, it's lower risk than if you're in construction, for example. So lower risk startup companies that, don't have a lot of revenue, um, really don't need an umbrella. This is my opinion, but when your company gets to a certain size revenue, you really want to make sure that your liability policies cover that revenue, because that is an exposure if you get sued.
yeah,
So once you are, hitting more than 1 million in revenue, for example, because most general liability policies are 1 million per occurrence in coverage and 2 million aggregate, or 2 million total per the policy term. When you start exceeding those numbers as a business, depending on what your business is, depending on what your exposure is to get sued, because that's how I always think about it.
sure,
That's when you need to start thinking about an excess liability policy. Now, in certain industries, excess liabilities are required. Again, a vendor may require it. I know
right.
people in construction, demolition,
Yeah,
things like
that's
that, and
big
they have to,
in that industry. Yeah,
right,
absolutely.
and they have to carry really high liability limits, but you don't necessarily need that high liability limit. Again, if you're a startup or if you're in a lower risk
Yeah,
bracket of revenue.
yeah.
Does that sufficiently answer your
It
question?
does, and so again, in my experience, and we're going to transition to the next episode because I think that that's where we really need to get to. But one of the things that I realized is the absolute critical importance, because the business that I had, it was a service industry, and we had a couple of incidents where employees, we were on the liability side. We created issues, and what we found out is that, like for instance, one of our guys was working on the sprinkler system, and the sprinkler system went off and flooded out a grocery store. And that grocery store had in their insurance policy that came back on ours, but we had in ours that if there was loss of income, they would cover that. But if it wouldn't have been covered, then of course that grocery store had to be shut down for 10 hours. Those are things I never ever would have thought about. So it's so important that and because we had the errors and emissions insurance, that professional lines, it covered it without question, and I was so grateful in that moment because it was thousands and thousands of dollars of a claim. All I had was my deductible. So that's exactly what you're talking about, is you need to make sure you have those policies in place. So in the next episode, Jamie, we're going to talk about some red flags, because the last thing you wanted to be doing is just saying, oh, well, I got the best price on this insurance, and come to find out that your agent wasn't really qualified to be doing what they were doing or whatever. So I'm so grateful that you were able to join us on this episode. Join us on the part two as we talk about those red flags on what you should be looking for and what things you should be asking your insurance agent as you grow. So Jamie, thanks so much. We'll
Absolutely.
see you on the next call.
Thank you.